These are also girls. You know, we forget how old they are. We forget how old they probably were when they were taken, and we have to remember that these are still kids. So starting to play with them, we're like, yeah, these aren't these like bad girls giving us attitude anymore. They're these beautiful angels that God has amazing plans for, and that they just want to play, they just want to dance Zumba, and they just want to have some fun. So that was Phnom Penh.
So after Phnom Penh, we went to a very small city. So imagine going from like downtown LA or like south side of Chicago and then going out into like the country, like Central Valley, like a nice little small town. So here we went to Kampong Cham for just a couple days. And while we were there, we got to meet with the girls in that city. And going from Phnom Penh, these girls like kind of, I don't want to say thug, but a little bit. Going from girls from that background to Kampong Cham was like night and day. Like I said, going from like inner city to kind of the village area. But while we were there, when we first got there, our introduction to the city was we got to our hotel, and right outside of our room there was like this balcony in front of the hotel, and I'm like, oh cool, like a balcony. So we go out to explore, because that's what we do, or what I do. And so we're out there, we're like checking it out, looking out the street, and I noticed there's like, if the balcony keeps going into the building next door, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. So I'm like, hey, Dante, Darwin, you guys should go down there and see what's there, because I was too scared to actually go. So anyway, they start, and they're like, no, we're not going here. And I'm like, no, it's okay, keep going. And they're like, no. So then we had to go to dinner, and we left, and it was night when we were on our way back, and we see all these bright lights and music and in the building right next to our hotel, and I'm like, oh, and they're like, oh yeah, that's a KTV. And we'd seen several of them throughout our time, but a KTV is a karaoke TV bar, and basically it's a cover for a brothel. That's where a lot of the girls come out of. And so to see it right next to our hotel, I was like, oh my gosh, and then it hit me, I was like, oh, I almost made Darwin and Dante go in there. So anyway, I'm glad that didn't happen. They were smart and didn't listen to me. But that was kind of our welcome into the city, and I was thinking, wow, like even in this small town, to have a KTV bar this big, where there's not very many tourists, you know, it's a lot of the local guys that are going there to get girls, to take them back to a hotel or whatever. And it just kind of made me sad at the same time that this is so prevalent, and it's not just prevalent there, it's prevalent here as well, but to see it like right in our faces, and to think that I almost sent some of our team in there, just really hit me hard that this is a very real thing. Could you go to the next slide, Eric? So while we were in Kampong Cham, next slide. Oh, thank you. We also got to visit one of the salons, and we met this lady named Tina, and she is so cool. I was just hearing her story. I actually got to have a couple meals with her, because we met up with her in Chiang Rai, and then she flew over to Siem Reap to check on their salon and train a little bit with their teacher. But she is from Georgia. She's from the U.S. She went through all the levels of this Paul Mitchell School of Cosmetology, which apparently I know nothing about hair or anything like that, but that's like the top. Like, imagine like your master's degree or doctorate in cosmetology. Like, that's what she has, and she's in really high demand. Like, they're always asking her, oh, can you come teach this class? Can you come teach this class? And she gave all of that up to come to Thailand and Cambodia and teach these girls a skill that will give them and ensure them a bright future. She shared with us 3 of the Destiny girls so far have opened their own salons, and several more are working in salons very successfully, providing for their families much better than they could if they were in the bars or brothels. And so she's just a really cool lady. It was really a privilege to meet her while we were there. When we interacted with the girls later that day, they were just so sweet. They welcomed us into their learning center. Each place we visited was kind of like a school for them, because they didn't want us to go into their homes. That would be awkward if, you know, a bunch of people from another country came into your house and was like, hey, let's do Zumba. But we went into their learning center, and the way that they welcomed us in was they wanted to show us a traditional Khmer dance. And so they taught us a little bit of their Khmer dance, and then in exchange, we taught them some Zumba. So it was a really cool experience. But these girls, just to see how young and innocent and fresh they were, just to know that what they had been through, they were still, just still so young. It was really cool to just be able to interact with them and to bless them a little bit and to have them bless us with things that they knew as well. While we were in Kampong Cham, we tried to do a little cultural excursion each city we were in, and our tuk-tuk driver, his name was Gideon, he was like, I really want to take you to the monkey temple. And so I was so excited. I'm like, yes, monkey temple. I love monkeys. So we get there and I learned that I do not like monkeys very much. They were terrifying. One of the girls on our team, she had a banana and he climbed up her leg and onto her side and was reaching for those bananas, and I was like, oh no. So after that, I stood next to Gideon, who was our driver, and I followed him around the whole temple because I was like, he can protect me from the monkeys. So that's a picture of Gideon right there, not the lion thing, but the guy. And while I was following him around for dear life, I was asking him, hey Gideon, your name is in the Bible, is that a coincidence? And he's like, no, I'm a Christian. And so I was asking him about his story, and he was like, oh, it's a really long story, you don't want to hear. So then of course he shares it with Jade, because Jade is awesome. And Jade told me later that he was 5 when the Pol Pot, the guy that was in charge of that whole genocide, came in. And so he's a survivor. He survived that genocide. His family was able to put him into another family that was kind of part of the party and protect him a little bit. But the things he had seen and the things that he had been through as a result were horrible. But when Christ came into his life and changed him, you could just see in his eyes how much hope he had and how much love he had for the Lord and for people. And so it's cool that he gets to work for Destiny Rescue now and drive people around and interact with the girls and interact with a lot of different people. So as he was taking us on this picture is interesting because the stone statue was built in the 60s. It's not that old. But it's so worn on the sides is because at this temple, that's where Pol Pot would take his soldiers and they would sharpen their knives there, and that was actually one of the places where they would kill people also. So surrounding this whole temple complex is also killing fields. And so as I was thinking about this and thinking about this temple, and then we went and visited Angkor Wat, which is a huge temple complex, I was just thinking of our lives and when we're founded in something that's not Christ, Satan can just come in and have his way and just wreak havoc. But when God comes in after that, like Josie was saying, the redemption is so sweet and so pure and so complete. And only Christ can do that. And I feel like that hit me again and again. Each place we went it's only through God's love that we can have hope after devastation. Eric, if you go to the next slide. We went to Siem Reap, and while we were there, we visited, like I said, Angkor Wat. This is the sunrise. We got there so early in the morning. We woke up at 5. It was kind of awful, but it was cool. So we get there, and we walked around all day. And the day before, we were supposed to actually have gone to visit the girls in their center, but we weren't able to. Next slide, Erin. Thank you. We found out some news while we were in Kampong Cham that one of the girls, she had snuck out of the learning center, and Destiny Rescue didn't know where she was because she'd snuck out. Her guardians had no idea, and she got in a moto accident. We saw motos all over the place, and I used to think they were really cool until I heard about this story, and we saw a couple accidents while we were there, but they were so dangerous, oh my goodness, and the way they drive. It's just really scary, but this girl was on a moto, and they got in a moto accident, and she broke her arm. And so they took her to a hospital, and because the hospitals there aren't super great, remember just 40 years ago, all of the doctors were killed, so there's nobody to really teach how to do medicine. They just kind of put her in a bed, and they were like, oh, well, who's your guardian? They couldn't find her guardians, they couldn't locate them. She was probably not very conscious. They didn't tell her to put up her arm, they didn't tell her to, hold it. They didn't tell her anything. She just laid there for hours. And finally, when they were able to contact her guardians through Destiny Rescue, they went and they saw, and there was no pulse in her arm. And so they're like, oh, we're gonna have to amputate it. And they're like, no, let's take her to a better hospital. So they transferred her to a better hospital. They were like, okay, we're gonna try for 24 hours to get her pulse back, but if we can't, we're gonna have to take her arm. And so while they're in Kampong Cham, we found out the news that they are gonna have to take her arm, or they did. They did take it. And so that was really hard just to see the director there. We went with her to the city so that she could, go be with the girls in the home, and then her husband and a couple other staff and her counselor went with her to the hospital to tell her the news that that's going to happen. And I was just thinking about that and thinking this girl's life has not only been forever changed from what she's already been through, but again, this has limited her so much. And as I was praying for her and just praying, I was like, God, even you can redeem this. Like, you can redeem even this horrible thing that's happened in her life. And I pray that he does, and I know that he will. But as I was talking with the director, she's like, you know what? Like, the girls sneak out all the time. Like, a ton of girls sneak out. She's like, there's the ones that sneak out. She's like, but this was her first time. Like, this was her first time sneaking out. She's usually a really good girl. And she was telling me that, I was like, really? They sneak out? Like, they don't want to stay there forever and have an awesome new life? And Jen and I think, were talking about this. We just kind of assumed, like, once you pull these girls out of a situation, like, everything's awesome after that. And it made me realize, like, life is messy. Redemption is a messy process. Like, these girls aren't, going to just be, like, instantly, like, healed and perfect from that. It's a lot of growing and a lot of growing pains, and the influences that these girls have had for 13, 14, 15 years have been not so good influences. And so to change all of that overnight, it just doesn't happen. And so again, with the volunteers with Destiny Rescue, I applaud them because they go through a lot to just show these girls a little bit of love each day. If you go to the next one here. Jade's going to share with us about Chiang Mai, Thailand, and then Melon's going to share with us about Bangkok. So after Cambodia, we flew all the way back to Thailand.
Thanks. So we left Siem Reap, went into Chiang Mai. This is another large city in Thailand in the north. It's not as crazy as Bangkok. This is it's a lot more conservative up there. And we got a chance to go meet up with the prevention homes in the area. We got to go take a look at the Destiny Cafe. However, they had just started changing it from a cafe to a screen printing shop. So the whole point of having these jobs for these girls, I mean, just to frame it and put it in perspective, is that these girls, they average, in each place that we go, from about 15, 16, 17. And if you think about where we were when we were 15, 16, 17, we were in high school, we were looking to have trouble, we were looking to have fun. The worst thing that we had to do, maybe during that time, was probably homework and deal with maybe a bully, something like that. However, these girls, 15, 16, 17, who had been rescued out of that, they had seen so many things before. So they were, who knows how old they were when they were subjected, they were kidnapped. And they had to go just do all these horrible things because of the traffickers. And that means that they had no chance to go to school, right? So very little education. We say, 9th grade education, we need a little bit more. These girls don't even get that opportunity. So right off the bat, you have a bunch of little girls who have their futures pretty much taken away, right? And I'm not just talking about their futures as far as what they're capable of, but we're talking about their future as far as their children and their children's children. And their entire bloodline was taken away by people who chose moments of sin. And so giving the girls a chance to take lessons in English, to learn a trade, how to do the cafes, and how to find work, and how to do a job, and how to speak English, is one of their ways of giving them back and helping them stand on their own 2 feet so that they don't return to these things. However, in Chiang Mai, Thailand, the cafe wasn't making a whole lot of money. And so instead of trying to push that issue, they changed to screen printing. And in this little 3-story area, they have a little learning center. And just down the street, well, in the area, they had a couple of houses, prevention homes. And these prevention homes had more children, kind of like the children that we saw in Chiang Rai. These children hadn't been part of it yet. However, they were getting close. Their parents were gone. Who knows what kind of trouble they were going to be in. But if a trafficker got a hand on some of these kids, then their futures would be taken away too, in exchange for sin. So just seeing just some of these kids, 11, 12, some of them just came up and they're smiling, and there are things they didn't have to go through that because they're inside the prevention homes. We get the next slide over here. This is a KTV. If we take a look at the stats, and people are saying, oh, well, across Southeast Asia, a lot of these places, a lot of these brothels are being shut down. We're winning. This is the victory that we have. The numbers are dwindling. However, the people who are organizing this took it all underground. And so these are little bars that are littered pretty much all over the place, and they've found kind of ways to circumvent the local laws, where they would still have girls go up and talk to people, and it's not just men who are participating in this. There are couples that went in, so men and women. There were not just men who were putting these girls through this, but there were the mama-sans. Everybody was trying to just take advantage of these people. This is the inside of one of them. We didn't really go into the stock photo, right? But this is kind of a peek into what's going on inside. And I mean, it looks well, I can't say innocent enough, but the whole thing about it is when we take a look, and maybe when other people in the world take a look, and they see these people, they say, well, they're sinful, they're prostitutes, this is the life they chose, this is, we don't give them a second thought. And some of these girls that have been through this, they started even believing this about themselves. They said, well, maybe I'm not worth anything, maybe I can't do anything, maybe I can't. And they begin to believe that, and it was really sad until at the screen printing shop, we met a girl, 21, named Pan. I made fun of her name and I called her Pan, which kind of means to mold, sort of. And I didn't know until I thought about it later just how appropriate that was. Because at 21 years old, she says 2 years earlier she was rescued by the organization, and she didn't tell me about how long she was in there. But when she came out, she had a dream. And she shared this dream with me. She said that she dreamed that she saw a preacher. She heard a preacher's voice. She wasn't able to see who the preacher was, but she wanted to know more. And so after being rescued and talking to people in this neighborhood, she found a way to go join a Bible college. She joined a seminary. She wanted to know more. And the more she learned about the Bible, I think the more she became molded by God. And she got called back, and she says that she really wants to help. She's not sure what she wanted to do right now. She can talk to the girls, and she knows what they've been through. But she also wanted to make money, and she wanted to get on her feet, and she wanted to do screen printing. Destiny Rescue in that little local area provided her with bulk. And for a girl who maybe there was a moment in her life when she figured she didn't have a future, when there were people looking at her and saying, this girl doesn't have a future, who cares? The amazing thing is that God cared. And he actually reached over there when no one else, not even himself sometimes, thought about it, reached in and provided her with a future even bigger than what she imagined herself or even what other people